the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, the far left running wild. What a surprise. Take a look at how they treat one of their favorite targets, GOP strategist Karl Rove.
Why is there no woman up here? We need a California woman up here. I am one. I'm Judy Bonaparte. I have to do it. Citizens arrest for treason.
Karl Rove is the architect of Occupy Iraq.
No, I didn't say go ahead. I said you get away.
Look what you did. You outed a CIA officer. You lied to take us to war. You ruined the country.
If you want to keep interrupting me, you can get the heck out of here.
He's the Zelig of heckling. Joining us now from Washington to respond is Mr. Rove. Karl, I would put you under citizen's arrest, but I left my handcuffs in a hotel in Harrisburg. Are you just as evil as they think you are? Or are you just like, you're such an easy, heckleable target?
Well, first of all, let me say this. You strung together about 5 years worth of heckling there.
Yes.
The one that happened this week was at the University of Mass in Amherst, a very liberal campus and a very liberal community. But I got to say, I hope people don't go away thinking of the visit to the campus only through the eyes of those two lunatics reading. They had to read their heckle off of a piece of pink paper. I mean, how pathetic is that? Look, most of the crowd was respectful. We had a great evening, except for the lunatics. I had a number of kids, look, I gave a speech for about 30, 35 minutes. I took questions for about close to an hour. There were kids who stood in line and said, look, I disagree with, everything you stand for and what you believe, but, thanks for coming to campus, and here's my question. And so, that's fine. But it is interesting to me. There is a segment of the left, very ultra-liberal people who, liberalism claims to be a tolerant, sort of equality-oriented group of people. These people are not tolerant. They don't worry about other people's rights. When the police started taking people out of the auditorium at UMass, they began the rest of the people began to applaud, and I couldn't have been treated nicer. The security people were great. The chancellor of the university, Chancellor Swamy, came, admonished the crowd after they started doing this to please and stop. And my suspicion is most of them were not students, and if they were, by God, they're in remedial class, because it is really pathetic to have to read your heckle off of a piece of paper, and they were trying to do it in unison. I mean, It's really sort of funny.
It's weird. Even while you were talking just now, I had the urge to heckle you. So I think it's more your fault, I think, than them, because...
Yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault. And you know what? Speaking of feeling something, just the idea of you running the factor tonight gives me some concern about what is going to happen to the O'Reilly factor after you finished with it. I mean, my God, man, how did you do this?
Well,
how did you get in control?
I have
sort of the
drugged in the basement.
I'm in control here.
He has no idea I'm doing this show right now. By the way, this show is never going to air. I want to ask you, though, why is it that when you rarely see, I would say, conservatives do this kind of heckling whenever there's a liberal icon or a liberal commentator on campus? Generally, if you see someone like yourself, you got to dodge pies. But that never happens when a leftist is up there. Is it because conservatives are just more polite? Or is it because I don't know, they're just nicer people?
Look, I think part of it is that, right? Conservatives are more polite and respectful. I think conservatives do have, tend to have a decent respect for other people's opinions and a natural curiosity. And look, so do a lot of liberals. But there is an element, an intolerant group on the left who, if you are from the center right, they don't want you playing on their playground. They, look, for weeks, literally, the president of the UMass Republicans, wonderful kid named David Kaufman, told me that the president of the protesters, the organizers, the head of the American Friends Service Committee, emailed him and said, respectfully, please revoke your invitation to Mr. Rove. And I mean, that's their mindset. Don't let conservative opinion come on the campus. What do they have to fear? That's the main, and you can shut them down when they're sitting there screaming and yelling. I just say, look, what are you afraid of? Why don't you just sit down, shut up, and then when we get to the Q&A period, you stand behind the microphone and I'll take your question. And most people, even if they don't agree with you, want to have things done in the regular order.
When I did a speech in Berkeley, and I anticipated heckling, and I brought a super soaker water gun, because I figured no one had ever done that before. That if somebody starts heckling, you just fire them just high-powered water in their face. Unfortunately, nobody showed up. But anyway, here's the thing. I think it's important that you bring up this fact that they don't want you to come there. if you are confident in your beliefs, isn't this kind of a measure of insecurity that they don't want you there because they're perhaps scared that maybe their own feelings about what they believe in are maybe not as strong as they think?
Well, I'm not going to analyze them with regard to their own feelings, but I do know they don't like having conservatives on campus. And it's because, look, they don't want us to be making the argument because they know the argument will sway some people. I went to Yale a couple of years ago, to the Yale Political Union, where they assign you a topic for the evening, and you give a speech, and then you take questions until they're finished having you answer questions, and then you leave, and then they vote on the resolution. The resolution that night was resolved, Obamacare should be repealed. And at the end of the evening, after we finished hammering it one way up and down the other, and I left, they called me in the car on the way back to the hotel and said, guess what? The Yale Political Union has voted in the affirmative that resolved Obamacare should be repealed. So that we can make the case. If we make the case, and we make it with passion, and with logic, and with facts, and with emotion, we can win the case.
You know, I find it interesting that right now there's a brouhaha brewing in Harvard, where they've invited a misogynist rapper to perform for the students, which I find interesting because so many campuses would not welcome members of the military, veterans, or people like you. But I think it's pronounced Tyga, though I'm not sure. He is more than welcome. Why is that?
Well, don't don't ask me to explain the weird attitudes of some of these elite Eastern universities with their weird. A friend of mine whose son goes to a school. I'm not going to mention the name of the school, but his father was horrified to get this email with his son recounting all of the sexually explicit and sexually perverted, events that they were highlighting on the campus, condoned by the administration. And this, having a misogynist rapper at Harvard, one of the most liberal, feminist-oriented schools in the country, just strikes me as really, really weird.
Yeah. Now, I have another theory on why conservatives don't heckle. They're usually working.